values. We surround them project. The reason why this is so important is because the country is being asked to make decisions right now. You're being asked to make decisions. And I don't know if you've had a dinner with a lot of friends lately or if you've talked to a lot of friends, but I have a lot of friends who are very, very smart and good, decent people, and they're like, you know what, I don't think this capitalism thing works. Excuse me? I think there should be a salary cap. They agree with Barney Frank that there should be a salary cap in all sectors of the economy. They're losing confidence in capitalism. Socialism has been fed to us. And, gang, there's only one way to keep socialism afloat without any capitalist on the planet, and that is through the end of a barrel of a gun. At some point, it all falls apart. It doesn't work. If it worked, Venezuela wouldn't be having the election that they had this weekend. They had an election this weekend where Chavez, he's not going to leave office. He's going to be Castro. He's going to stay in, democratically elected, of course. He's played all kinds of games. See if any of this sounds familiar. Plays all kinds of games with the voting process. First thing he did, he came in, he nationalized the banks. Then he nationalized industries. Then he squashed any dissent. He closed down certain TV stations, certain talk radio shows. Not all of it, just the ones that disagreed with him. Then he went to the people and said, I need to stay in a little longer. And the people said no. So then he played with the numbers a little bit more. And then he got his goons to come out and make sure that you understood that this is really the right thing to do. Surprise, surprise, he can stay in office. The people of Venezuela have decided, yeah, you know what? You're right. Chavez should be able to remove term limits. This is the way it happens. And what are the stories that we're reading about today? Nationalization of the banks is the only way out. Well, I wanted to get Stephen Moore on to talk a little bit about nationalization of banks. People don't even understand what that means. I'm not sure I really understand what it means. Stephen Moore from the Wall Street Journal and the author of the book, End of Prosperity. Stephen.
Hi, Glenn.
How are you?
Happy President's Day. By the way, I have an explanation for why some smart people think that, the free enterprise system doesn't work. They think we have free enterprise in America, but
Thank
we don't.
You.
We don't.
We haven't had it since the turn of last century.
That's right. I just sent your producer a chart that shows that in 1900, the federal government share of all output was 4.8%. Today, 33%.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So we are this hybrid, and we have been for a while, and it really started under FDR. But it started moving under Wilson, and then really got cranking under FDR and kept cranking. Reagan brought it back down a bit, and then now here it is, bigger and badder than ever.
Well, that's right. The one kind of joke about the start of the Obama administration and the passage of this, quote, stimulus bill is this is supposed to be change, right? How is this change? George Bush took the budget from $1.9 trillion to $3.5 trillion, and now Obama, in his first 30 days in office, is taking it up by another $1 trillion.
Okay.
That ain't change.
So, Stephen, what I want you to do here in the next couple of minutes, I just want you to explain to the American people, A, the nationalization of banks, what that means. We're already on the hook for, what is it, $7 or $8 trillion of this banking debt.
That's right.
Which means if it goes down, we're going to have to pay for it.
Right.
We are with everything in total, we have doubled the size of the national debt on the one set of books,
right.
The $10 trillion. Now on that set of books, if you really looked at everything that we have promised since September, it is now $20 trillion. True or false?
Unfortunately, those numbers sound pretty accurate to me. We don't know exactly because the Fed doesn't keep its books very open, so we don't know exactly how much bank debt that it is bought. But your number of about $7 trillion is certainly in the ballpark. And what we're headed towards is bank nationalization, but I kind of laugh when you say that because we're already doing that.
Oh, I know we are.
The Fed has turned itself into the largest commercial bank in the world over the last 6 months. We use this language, nationalizing the banks. It's already happening, folks. I mean, the Fed is operating as a bank with taking on $8 trillion in debt. And by the way, nobody elected Ben Bernanke, right? I mean, this guy is a kind of economic dictator, as Hugo Chavez is in Venezuela.
Well, I will tell you this. Here are the actual stats. Amount of cash already spent by the U.S. to rescue the banks, $3 trillion. That's the Fed.
Right.
I never approved $3 trillion. Did you approve that?
I never. Nobody voted.
How did that happen?
Did you vote for Ben Bernanke?
No. So that's just the Fed coming in and saying with the Treasury, we're going to spend $3 trillion.
Right.
But that's my money. But better yet, that's my children's lifestyle going right out the window.
Right.
Okay. So when they come in and they truly take over the banks.
Well, that in that case, what they're talking about is actually having the federal government operate Citibank, Bank of America, many of these other large banks that are failing, where essentially the government would own and operate the banks.
Stephen, talk me down from the crazy tree on this one.
I try to do that every week, Glenn.
I know, and you're not very good at it. Okay, here's what this means to me. Once you have Barney Frank and Chris Dodd and Barack Obama in charge of the banks, or let's make it the opposite way, George Bush, Dick Cheney, and ExxonMobil, all in a dark room controlling the banks, you now can use it for politically correct purposes.
Of course.
You can now say, you're not getting this loan because we're not going to loan any more money to radio stations unless we don't have to pass the fairness doctrine. We're just not going to give you the money for your loans.
Right.
You're not going to loan. They now have control of all of the country's financial information. And they'll say they have it through the IRS, et cetera, et cetera. But they have immediate access to everything digitally, right?
Yes, from a privacy perspective, it's very dangerous. It's also dangerous. I mean, imagine the bank saying, well, we can't lend your business money. You don't have 8.6% of your employees aren't Hispanic and 11.8% aren't black and, 14% aren't gay. And I mean, you're going to have affirmative action. You're going to have all of these new rules coming on. And of course, that's because, today is President's Day. And I got this great quote from George Washington where he says that, government is a fearsome master. And that's something we've forgotten about what the founding fathers stood for. They stood for limited government, with government standing out of the way of the free enterprise system. We don't have that anymore. We don't have enterprise anymore today.
Yeah, he said a fearsome master. He compared it to fire. He said it's a great slave, but it is a fearsome master. Yep. It is something that you should be very, very wary of. And people don't truly understand that with the federal government, if they control financing, what don't they control? It's the same thing that everybody has been saying about, the Fed, all these conspiracy theorists, it's a star chamber, blah, blah, blah. There's no conspiracy. This is what the Fed is doing. They do it, and they don't have to tell anybody about it. Now, if the federal government takes over these banks, they control your entire life. They no longer have to pass any new laws on affirmative action. They will just coerce business.
That's right.
You're going to be union.
That's right.
That's just the way it is.
Well, did you see our article the other day about how the unions have now sent letters to every major bank saying, if you take any penny of government money, you shall not be allowed to lobby against the forced union bill that they want to pass. And so now they want to take away the free speech of businesses to say, if you take a penny of government money, you can't take on the unions. And so it's a perfect example of how this money is never free. But I blame a lot of these companies for taking the money in the first place.